So, last July was BPT, the Bullied Pacific Trilogy, in which I did 3 episodes on the Southern Railway Bullied Pacifics, featuring 35028 Clan Line, 34027 Taw Valley, and 34066 Spitfire. But today, on Loco Profiling episode 29, we'll cover the Bullied Pacific that I still firmly believe should have taken Spitfire's place for that trilogy. Locomotive 34067 Tangmere. And by this point, you should be familiar with the Bullied Pacific production run and the tractive effort-related geometry. If not, or you've already forgotten the BPT episodes I did in July, I left a bunch of slides with text that you can pause to have a better read at your own leisure, in case you're still not very familiar with it. So with that said, on to Tangmere. Built in September of 1947, and initially carrying the confusing continental number 21C167, Tangmere didn't have much of a standout career, with the only real highlight being the moment she obtained her British Railways number 34067 in July of 1949. But unlike Spitfire, Tangmere actually survived into preservation. Withdrawn from service in November of 1963, she was actually one of the first Bullied Pacifics to be retired, and upon her retirement, she was sent off to the Wooden Brothers scrapyard in Barrie in April of 1965. And she got out of Barrie in January of 1981, when she was privately bought and initially moved to the Mid-Hants Railway, before swiftly moving on to Ian Riley's shops in Bury, which used to be on the East Lancashire Railway. And during a rebuild, she even got an air compressor as part of her mainline certification. Now, she's preserved in Carnforth, as part of the fleet of charter train operator West Coast Railways. Now, onto the incidents and the memes. Firstly, there was the Winchfield incident. On November 23rd of 2013, Tangmere was on a run. But near the titular town of Winchfield, her right-hand driving rod had failed. The small end buried, connecting the rod to the crosshead, which also has the piston rod attached to it, was the specific point of failure. So the rod broke off from the crosshead and touched the electrified third rail. A document made by the folks over at RAID, the Rail Accident Investigation Branch, referred to the rod as the connecting rod, but Anyway, luckily nobody got hurt and there was only some relatively minor damage to the track and the locomotive. So, it's not the worst disaster and hopefully this was just a one-off. Right? 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 Of course she had more incidents. In fact, her second major incident was arguably her most famous one. On March 7th of 2015, Tangmere passed a red signal at Wootton Bassett Junction, near Swindon. The result? She nearly sideswiped a passenger train joining onto the main line, because her crew had isolated the AWS and TPWS, those being the automatic warning system and the train protection warning system. In fact, not only was this the incident that put Tangmere on the map as a meme and potential safety hazard, but it even caused West Coast Railways to be temporarily banned from running any steam engine on the British mainline system. Ever since then, the ORR, the Office of Road and Rail, and effectively Britain's version of the FRA, would be very wary whenever Tangmere hits mainline rails. Then, many years later, at some point during September of 2024, one of her cylinders blew up near the town of Preston during a rail tour. Now, there have been other locomotives in the UK steam preservation scene which suffered blown cylinders. But when Tangmere got one, it had hit a bit closer to the heart, considering she had already built up a pretty notorious reputation by this point. But the crews at West Coast Railways learned from this mistake, right? Of course they didn't learn from this mistake, because later that same month, it fucking happened again on the Settle and Carlisle Railway.
Impossible.
It gets worse, Megatron. For earlier this year, on April 5th of 2025, Tangmere firmly cemented herself as a safety hazard. Now, remember one of the problems of the bullied Pacifics? Specifically the ash pen underneath the firebox not having any dampeners on it, which can make the fire very hard to control? Well, it may have been a little bit related to what Tangmere had actually done on that day. It looked like the locomotive actually took some lessons from a particular American steam locomotive, Union Pacific Challenger 3985, and the early part of its preservation career in the early 1980s, when it would occasionally set off line-side grass fires. Tangmere also started a line-side grass fire, and it was a pretty big one on the Cumbrian coast.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
And remember, Megatron, if you can't fight West Coast Railways, join them in their crusade of arson!
Burn it down! All of it!
And that was Tangmere. Relatively short and painful for you, but highly entertaining for me. And as a final, somewhat dirty note, you can't spell Cumbria without cum. And with that, we got the Tangmere episode finished. It was a lot of fun making this one. Way more than the Spitfire episode last July. Told ya. But yeah, because it's December, obviously, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever kind of holiday you're celebrating, regardless if it's Christmas, or Kwanzaa, or Hanukkah, or whatever. Just go out there, be with your friends, be with your family, be with your loved ones, and enjoy the time of the year, okay? And also have a safe and happy new year. Don't play with fireworks. If you do, well, you're abusing your power, and I do kind of hope that you blow off your fingers, okay? But, yeah, for those of you out there who have stuck around this year, even though it was tough, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for still believing in me. And, also, Lando Norris, 2025 Formula One World Champion. Who would have thought it? I mean, then again, it would have been cool if Max Verstappen had won this year's World Championship, because it would have been 5 in a row, which no other driver had done before apart from Michael Schumacher, but, it is what it is. I could still live with Lando winning this year's championship because, he did fight for it pretty well despite the McLaren F1 team doing their best to kind of lose the Drivers' Championship throughout much of this year. So, yeah. But still. And I guess at this point all I really have left to say is, well, again, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, stay safe out there, don't play with fireworks, otherwise please lose your fingers. And all I have left now is another teaser for the SSN special. Enjoy.